At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Right. Oh, what a day. What a day, folks. This is just so frustrating. First of all, the internet went down on me earlier this morning, so I had a lot of missing data, and it's just a big total mess. Spectrum has been the biggest disappointment for me so far with my internet business, 100%. And I don't want to trash talk any businesses because that's not what I do, but you got to have a reliable service. There are too many people who rely on the internet. It's just terrible. It's terrible. So Starlink is most likely going to be on my list to call this week because I've had enough. That all being said, then I went to go do my live stream here. It's working fine on YouTube, but it's not working on Facebook. So hopefully those of you who are used to watching me on Facebook, you are able to go on to the link that I posted and it will take you to the YouTube live that's in here. What a mess. What a mess it's been this morning. But hey, let's get through it. What's not a mess is how giving all of you are. Ted Blankenheim's 21st annual bike drive. A lot of great locations you can drop them off. Starbucks, Budget Blinds, youth and family programs, AAA on 943 Mission a Day Oro Drive, Dill's Deli, and also the Wheelman Club of Reading. You have until December 24th to drop off those new bikes. So yes, many of you have been asking for it, and you got it. You got the wet weather. It has moved on in. Unfortunately, folks, I probably won't be able to see your comments because, again, we have some weird issues with Facebook. But, again, I apologize for that. We are finally breaking this cycle. Wet weather pattern has arrived. Multiple rounds of rain continue to the weekend, and especially for next week. Now, there is a risk for minor flooding. I'm not concerned about creeks and streams and rivers overflowing, but rock slides, mudslides, those are a possibility. All right, let's get you into your Krueger's quick cast here. And you can see here, temperatures are generally in the low 40s. Now, there is still some patchy fog. We can't say that the fog is gone entirely, but it's not to the extent that we've seen over the last few weeks. But it's normal for us to see fog in weather patterns like this anyway, because now we have the moisture source, right? And if it's calm enough wherever that fog is, then yeah, then you tend to see that. So out the door this morning is going to be a little wet for some of us. I'd say to the north in Siskiyou and Modoc counties. Probably not as wet just yet, at least in the morning hours. Also need to talk about the winds. There's a high wind warning for Modoc County, and there's also a wind advisory for Lassen County, but those won't take effect until tonight and into tomorrow. All right, I'm going to make sure everybody's kind of checking in. I can see here and everything's great. Usually when you're on Facebook, it warns you that there's a live, so probably not as many people will notice that it's on because I'm going to get through it. Zen, moment of Zen, meditate. All right, take a look at that. You can see the river, atmospheric river, if you will. Now, again, atmospheric river is not a term that we all need to freak out and use as drama, but it is a source of moisture. Now, we take a look at Futurecast, and here you can see that rain has kind of kicked on in. So, I'm just so distracted by the fact that this isn't working. It's killing me. It's just killing me. I got to get over it. I really do. So there's that rain on Tuesday, today at noon. There you can see that wet weather. Now, what we're going to see, I think most of the rain is going to be really heavily focused to the north end of the viewing area. So I'd say the Reading area will probably see more rain than, say, Chico, for example. Now, this will probably continue as we go into tonight, but I do expect a bit of a break by tomorrow morning. In fact, you can see the chances for rain are slimmer Wednesday, Thursday. So that's when I expect to see a bit of a break, but then more wet weather and a lot more of it coming in for Friday through the weekend and even into next week. So temperatures are going to be basically 50 degrees, give or take, for the valley and many of the mountains, but for the north coast, probably somewhere in the low 60s. So for tonight, low to mid 40s, mid to upper 40s really for the valley, and mainly in the 40s for the higher elevations. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at your 7-day outlook. And you got dry conditions for Wednesday, Thursday. Now there still may be a sprinkle, a light shower Wednesday, Thursday, but it's going to be a bit of a break. And then another round of rain coming in for Friday through the weekend and even into next week. Heaviest will be on the coast. the inland, the inland areas, and not to mention the higher elevations. So yeah, this wet weather pattern, once it kicks in, it is going to stick around for a while. All right, so there's look at Lake Oroville. There's the fog that we are seeing in some areas, right? We take a look at Lake Oroville, North Forebay. Looks to be a little foggy out there. Here's a look at Main Street, Chico. It is wet there. Good to see the wet roads, right? It's good to see the wet weather, although wet roads are a little bit more dangerous, so you need to give yourself a little bit of extra time out there. There's Highway 99 at Neal Road. There's the sheen from the wet roads there. We're taking a look at Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. Now, this is in Reading. Reading is not seeing as much rain right now. It's kind of shifted to the south, but we've got another round once that kind of comes on out. Take a look at Sutter Buttes. We still have some of that fog in parts of the Sacramento Valley, so it's not entirely gone just yet. There's a look at Crescent City, Harbor District. You can see some of the rain that we're seeing out there, a little drizzly actually. Bald Hill West sucked in with that fog. In fact, I'd say the Hoop at many of the mountain valleys are still seeing a lot of that fog out there. There's Soda Ridge, can't really see anything out there either. All right, we take a look at Fort Jones. If you look closely, you see a bit of that fog that we are seeing in Scott Valley. So we're not done entirely with the fog just yet, folks, but we're starting to kind of mix it out a bit here. All right, I want to let you know that Coffee with Krueger is made possible by Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. All right, let's take a look at your Coffee with Krueger headlines. We're finally breaking the cycle. Yes, we're still seeing some fog out there, but today's the day we break that cycle and more turn our focus now on the rain and not so much the fog. The wet weather pattern has arrived. Let's take it back. Yeah, there we go. The wet weather pattern has arrived. We still have multiple rounds of rain through the weekend and even into next week. Now, there is going to be a risk for some minor flooding. I'm not concerned about rivers overflowing, creeks and streams, but there may be some low-lying areas that could see some minor flooding eventually, or as we go through the next several days. Rock slides, mudslides, debris flows, the works. All right, here's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. But before we get to that, we've got our sponsor, which is Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
All right, I want to thank Shasta Hearing Aids for their support and sponsoring the Deep Dive Forecast. So speaking of the Deep Dive Forecast, well, let's get you right into it. I'm going to go ahead and push that button for a second time. Technology has not been my friend this morning, my friends, but you have all been. Thank you. Which, by the way, because of your votes, I got North State's Best on Columnist Reporter. How awesome is that? Thank you all so much for your support. All right, so here you can see the wet weather that we are seeing, a bit of that lull as that broke that internet connection here, but we are seeing most of the rain down to the south in the Chico area. This band is moving on out. But behind it is right here. That's the next band of rain that's going to be coming in here through the morning hours and even into the afternoon. Temperatures right now, low 40s for the valley, low 40s for many of the higher elevations. Looks like a little bit warmer, a little bit more mild along the coast in the mid 50s. The winds, as you can see this morning, not all that strong. But as we take a look as we go through the afternoon, yes, we do have that high wind warning for Modoc County, wind advisory for Lacey and Plumas counties for tonight and into tomorrow. Why? Yeah, look at the gusty winds we do expect to see here, especially tonight, tomorrow morning. Now, the winds will probably start to die down, but then as the next storm system comes in Thursday night into Friday, we're going to probably see those winds begin to pick back up here as we go into Friday morning. So once again, you can clearly see this atmospheric river. This is the source of moisture aimed right at Northern California, and that is what's going to bring us that rain here for today. Now, we look at the severe weather outlook. We do have a chance for thunderstorms for the areas in green. There is a slight chance for maybe even a severe thunderstorm, which would mean heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and maybe even some hail associated with some of those thunderstorms as well. But we can't rule out some thunderstorms here, especially to the north and west of the valley through the day today. Now, I got the flash flood risk in here because the main concern is going to be mudslides and debris flows, rock slides as well, right, for the mountain highways. But I'm not concerned about the rivers. They're not expected to climb above based on the projections of how much rain we're going to see. They're not expected to climb above flood stage. but there may be some low-lying areas that could see that potential for some of that. And again, when I say that flood risk, it's mainly north and west of the valley in those higher elevations and along the coast here. Mudslides, debris flows, rock slides, we'll have to watch for all of that in the coming days and even as we go into next week. So we look at Futurecast. Again, there's that next batch of rain coming in here midday. You see how it's kind of focused more to the north. We're not seeing as much down to the south. So I think Redding, the Redding area in particular, will see more rain than, say, Chico, Willows, and Oroville. But you will certainly see some of those showers, as we've already started to see some of that this morning. And once again, the bulk of the rain is to the north and west of the valley. Now, by midnight tonight, we're seeing that last batch of rain push through, and then we see a lull in the activity. So Wednesday morning, I still think there could be a few sprinkles and light showers here and there, even through the day on Wednesday. But Wednesday night, there you can see a few showers kind of popping up to the north, nothing significant. Thursday, most of the day looking fairly dry. In fact, even some breaks in the clouds. But by Thursday night into Friday, there's the next batch of rain coming on. Now, this is all just going to continue to shift down to the south and east through the day on Friday. So it starts off on the coast and then works its way to the south and east through the day on Friday. There's Friday, 5 p.m. You're looking at most of the rain now down to the south and east, and then another lull in the activity. I did see some posts that were talking about the rain for Northern California and the Pacific Northwest, saying rain now all the way through the end of the month with no breaks. Don't fall for the hype, folks. Do not fall for that hype. We are going to see breaks in that wet weather. And as far as flooding is concerned, as I mentioned, the main concern will be mudslides and debris flows. But take a look at the rainfall totals through tonight. There you can see Redding could see close to an inch of rainfall, but notice in Chico. Now, it may be more than that. I think we'll probably see more than 200 of an inch of rainfall. But you get the idea. The heaviest rainfall to the north, smaller amounts down to the south here. And as we would typically see, north and west of the valley, that's where the heaviest rainfall will be. And then we see a more heavier rainfall off to the east. The reason being, the flow is doing west to east. So it moves up the mountains and it squeezes out the rain as it moves up the mountains. Now we get on what we know is the leeward side of the mountains. And what happens is they go up, see the heavier rainfall, it squeezes out the moisture, then the air sinks down on the leeward side, the eastern side of the mountains, and we see what's called shadowing in parts of the valley, so you don't see as much rainfall as a result. But then it goes back up the mountains and it squeezes out all that moisture, but we tend to see a little bit of shadowing out towards places like Modoc, Lassen, and even eastern Plumas counties. Now you can see as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, you're not seeing much more on top of what we see here for today and tonight, but then more rain coming in for Friday, and then another lull in that activity here for Saturday morning. Now, ask and you shall receive. A lot of you have been asking for the wet weather, and it is here, and it's going to be here for a while. This is just one of the long-range forecast models, but what it's clearly showing is, as we go into Sunday, Monday, and even Tuesday of next week, you can see an atmospheric river right here that's going to be aimed at Northern California. It's going to give us a good several rounds of rain come Sunday, Monday, and possibly even Tuesday. Now, snow levels will initially be around 7,000 to 8,000 feet this week. By this weekend into early next week, possibly down to as low as, say, 6,000 feet or so, and then below that as we get towards the middle and latter part of next week. This particular forecast model has nothing for Christmas Day. However, the European forecast model, much wetter on Christmas Day. So don't take a look at what we see this week. And again, don't fall for the hype. Sometimes people have these social media pages. They've got a lot of followers, and all they want are views, likes, so they can make money off of those posts. So they take a forecast model that's very aggressive with the rainfall, even though it may not be accurate, and it gets people involved, it gets people excited. So don't fall for those types of posts, folks. All right, so here are the main concerns once again. Extreme weekly rainfall rates. So this is an in-house forecast model that takes a look at the forecast models and sees where we may see an excessive amount of rainfall. This is what we call significant. It's on the lowest end of the scale. And I'd say even the North Coast is going to be in that as well. In fact, I'd say better chances for the North Coast to see that significant rainfall. We take a look at the next 7 days through Monday. There's the footprint. Remember I was talking about up the mountains, squeezes out all that moisture, even to the north of the valley. We see a bit of shadowing on the leeward side of those mountains, less rainfall as a result. Although Redding sees less shadowing typically than to the south. And then, of course, there's that heavier rainfall to the east with less rainfall. But bottom line, again, that main concern is going to be mudslides and debris flows, not so much those river levels at this point. Snow levels very high through the end of the week, 7,000 to 8,000 feet. That's why we're not seeing much snow in those higher elevations. But then as we go into early next week, this weekend and early next week, now we're down to as low as 6,000 feet and eventually lowering to as low as, say, 4,500 to 5,000 feet by the time we get towards the middle and latter part of next week. Could we see snow for some of the higher elevations on Christmas Day? It's not out of the question. As I mentioned, the European forecast model is showing some of that wet weather. However, the GFS is dry at this point, but that may change. We'll see. All right, so take a look at the 10-day outlook temperature-wise. Not changing. Low to mid-50s. And taking a look at the lake levels here, they are staying fairly status quo as well, although we still are down to about 97% of that historical average for Lake Oroville, but we'll probably start to see these lake levels begin to rise a bit here. Your wave heights, they are expected to increase and then drop a little bit here. Bottom line, I would anticipate to see some more small correct advisories in the days to come. Taking a look at your winds from the south at 10 to 15 knots and your waves from the west at 9 feet at about 13 seconds. All right, here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Taking a look at your forecast for Trinity County, here you've got those temperatures upper 50s, low 60s. Everyone in some shape or form is going to be wet today. It's just some areas much more rain than others. The North Coast, the mountains west of the valley, I think this is where we're going to see the most amount of rainfall for today. 63 in Ferndale, 61 and wet in Hydesville, and Rio Dale, you'll be wet with a high of about 60. We take you up north, could see some thunderstorms, by the way, and some of those thunderstorms could get rather strong, which would mean heavy downpours, hail, gusty winds, and frequent lightning. Otherwise, upper 50s to low 60s for those daytime highs for most of the North Coast. Take a look at Siskiyou County. There you can see temperatures mid-50s for Highway 96 and for I-5, generally in the low 50s. We're starting off with some fog out there in Scott Valley, but that will probably kind of scour out once we see that rain begin to move in here later this morning and afternoon. Central and eastern Siskiyou County, you've got temperatures in the mainly low 50s and wet weather here for today. Wet weather eventually working its way into Modoc County as well. You're fairly dry this morning though. 51 degrees for Newell, 52 degrees in Alturas, and 51 degrees out in Ayden. And there's a look at your forecast for the Eastern Mountains. 53 degrees for Old Station, 56 out in Paynes Creek. And we take you out to Lake Almanor, and you can see out to also towards Lassen Park. We've got the wet weather there as well. And, you know, I'd say the Lassen Peak will see some snow, but most likely not seeing a lot of snow below that. There you can see, of course, you've got Paradise about low to mid 50s. Susanville temperatures also in the low to mid 50s. The valley, you will be wet. Now to the south, I think you're going to see less rainfall than areas to the north, but still, you are seeing some rain this morning, and I do expect to see a chance for some more wet weather, but not a ton through the rest of the day today. The 7-day forecast for Chico. You're mainly dry Wednesday, Thursday, and really all of Northern California will be mainly dry. A passing sprinkle, a light shower here and there for both Wednesday and Thursday is not out of the question, but I think that next round of heavier rainfall will be moving in Thursday night and into Friday, and as we go into the weekend as well, with those temperatures in the low 50s. All right, so that is pretty much a look at your forecast, folks, and I apologize for the issues that I've had so far this morning. I had an issue with Spectrum this morning. Now I've got issues with Facebook not being able to go live from my software here, so it's just been kind of a mixy, weird type of situation. But it doesn't look like, let me see if many people are really getting on, and it doesn't look like. So what I'm probably going to have to do is post this recording. It did record, at least it recorded. I'll have to post this recording on Facebook so you all can see it. But in the meantime, you have yourselves a great day. Again, hopefully, I should be able to get everything kind of fixed today and back up and running as usual for tomorrow. Once again, I apologize. Technology just doesn't always want to work with us sometimes, so there you have it. Have yourselves a great day, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning at our regular time at 6:30 on Coffee with Krueger. Have yourselves a great day. We'll leave you with a couple of cameras.